We continue our summertime narrative lectionary series on women of the Bible, brought to you by some of the faithful women of this congregation. And today we're into the story of Ruth. Ruth and Naomi, but Ruth. And there's all sorts of things happening in this story. It's a wonderful, surprising, fun, amazing story once again. And today we get a double shot of really cool stuff, because Kate gets to bring the kids' moment and the sermon. And they've got to be different. No pressure. No, I'm just kidding. So, Kate, introduce us to Ruth.
Good morning. No pressure at all, Pastor. Who here has a best friend? Or more than one best friend? Because, we have our school best friend, our neighborhood best friend, our church best friend, or whatever. We have lots of friends, right? So what are some of the things that you look for in a good friend? Shout them out. Lauren. Kindness, loyalty. What else? They like you. Well, yeah, that's kind of important too. They're there when you need them. Hugs. Hygiene, okay. Good point. Good listener, all those things, right? And when we have a really, really good friend, a best friend, they can help us to grow and we can help them to grow. And in today's story, we're going to talk a lot about the friendship between two women and how through God's grace and intervention, he grew both of them, took them both from really, really hard times into much, much better times. So after we do the reading, I'll be back.
There's so much more to the story, Kate. Okay, you'll get to it, I'm sure. Let's hear a little bit about Ruth and her journey from Ruth chapter 1, verses 6 through 18. Let's read it all together. Here we go. Then she started to return with her daughters-in-law from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab that the Lord had considered his people and given them food. So she set out from that place where she had been living, she and her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on their way to go back to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find security, each of you, in the house of your husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud. They said to her, "No, we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Do I still have sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. Even if I thought there was hope for me, even if I should have had a husband tonight and bear sons, would you then wait until they were grown? Would you then refrain from marrying? No, my daughters. It has been far more bitter for me than for you, because the hand of the Lord has turned against me." Then they wept aloud again. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. So she said, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not press me to leave you, to turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do thus to me, and more as well, if even death parts me from you." When Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. All right. Ruth, tell the story some more.
So, setting the scene for today's story. Ruth, Naomi, and Orpah are all widows, and they're all childless. Ruth is a Moabite, and Naomi is an Israeli. And they have nothing, because of course in their day, women without husbands and sons were really nothing. So in the reading, you see they're headed back to Bethlehem, and Naomi tells them, go back, and eventually Orpah does, but not Ruth. Ruth denounces her previous faith and takes the gods of Israel and pledges her loyalty to Naomi. Here we see God's inclusion of all, regardless of where she came from, what she had done, or what she previously believed. After the reading, Naomi is bitter and unhappy. Obvious reasons. Her husband and both her sons have died, and she has nothing. But Ruth sticks with her. Ruth cares for both of them and works hard to provide food, doing Naomi's share of the work. As Naomi recovers, she helps Ruth meet Boaz, who becomes her husband, and they have a son. Both women's roles are elevated. The caring relationship between these women allows both of them to benefit. So I really want to focus on that caring relationship between women, friendships between women. And you'll see up here I have a few quotes from where we see friendship mentioned in the Bible. And interestingly, when I was looking up verses for this, the first one that came up was this one, which actually was our theme while we were at Kairos a week or so ago. So I just felt like that really was like meant to be. And it says, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. And then another one I found is from Proverbs. A sweet friendship refreshes the soul. And encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. And that's from Thessalonians. So what I want to do, one more. I forgot about this one from Romans. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. So what I want to do right now is focus on 3 friendships that have really impacted my life. And you'll see, I believe, how God is present in each of those friendships. But this actual story of Ruth, the first time I remember hearing this story, and yes, I went to Sunday school from the time I was a little child, but it never really stuck with me till I heard it in the movie Fried Green Tomatoes. And that has, ever since I saw that movie, it really just stuck with me, and as I've learned more, it just has become more and more important to me as well. So when I talk about these friendships, you know, God puts people into our lives when we need them most. They may not always look like we expect them to look. They might not always seem like we expect them to be, but they provide what we need. God puts them there for a reason. When we experience these friendships, we can see the light of Christ shining through them and growing in ourselves. So 3 women who have deeply impacted my life. In many ways, they are very different, but at the same time, they are all strong, faithful women whom I love dearly, who love my children, and whose friendship is greater than I often feel I deserve. First, I want to tell you about my friend Tony. Tony, by the way, just retired this year after 43 years in public education, over 30 of those as a classroom teacher, so yes, a much-deserved retirement. I met Tony when I started teaching at my current school. It's been about 20 years. And she was a role model for me in how to become a better teacher, how to really truly show the love that I have for those children under my care, how to mother a child. Took her a really long time to have her one child, and her devotion to him and his devotion to her is a beautiful, beautiful thing, one I strive to have with my own children. She also taught me about work-life balance. She would say, Kate, did you do the best you could for these kids today? Yes, ma'am. Then go home and rest. You don't need to take them home with you. You still take them home with you. But I tried. She also helped answer hard questions and deal with topics that might have made you uncomfortable in other ways, but she was always kind and loving about it. So Tony is truly an example of great faith and a beautiful woman. My next friend is Tanya. I often refer to Tanya as a combination between Mary Poppins and Martha Stewart. She has definitely taught me about hospitality, about welcoming all, caring for others. She's one that does the little things behind the scenes that nobody knows about. She's the one that welcomes every new person, makes them feel at home, made our school feel like a family. She also just retired, sensing a trend here. She's also my walking buddy. We walk together nearly every day, and it's a beautiful time to talk about our days and our stresses and get all those things out. Yes, we talk about our husbands, but what is said on the trail stays on the trail. That is, Vegas rules. She's become like a surrogate aunt to my children. She loves them dearly, does not miss a birthday, holiday, nothing. Again, just see the light of Christ shining through her. And last, I want to talk about my friend Maggie. And for those of you who have been at Faith for a while, you might remember Maggie. Maggie came to us in actually the role that I have now. I actually sat in and interviewed her. Maggie was amazing with children, but came with no faith background. And I asked the pastor at the time, I said, is that going to be a problem? He said, no, I can work with that. And he did. And watching her faith journey as an adult was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Now, don't get me wrong. Maggie could be crude. She could be rude. But she also loved deep and loved hard. She was a cheerleader for those she cared about. She truly was a child of God and helped me to understand what that meant. Absolutely grew my faith. She would ask me questions that I was like, well, I don't know, I never thought about that, but okay, let's go, I truly believe she helped me to find my voice. Standing up here talking to y'all before Maggie would not have been a possibility. And then, of course, the tragedy of her unexpected death has impacted my whole family tremendously. Don't know why she left so early, but she definitely left a big impact. And again, you could see the light of Christ shining through her in all she did. So God's love for us, it's inclusive. We are all loved. We are all chosen. And God gives us people who are good for us. Even if they aren't the people we would choose, He often shows His love for us and blessings through the love of others. And He can turn tragic situations turn them around through friendship and support. And finally, the last slide, a reminder, a little small, but a reminder of Jesus' new commandment that He gave us, to love one another as He loved us. And when we have loving friends, they can reflect this love back to us and give us renewed strength to live into this commandment as well.
Go in peace. You are the body of Christ. Thanks be to God.